Hey everybody, Ginger here. Don't worry, this is not a return to strictly solo episodes for a while. Crystal will be back again, most likely next week. Just this week there was a lot going on and everything, so I'm just doing a quick little solo episode, which works out great because I went to the March for Life last weekend. And okay, so March for Life. If you don't know what it is, well, you're probably not watching this channel. But just in case you haven't heard of it before, it is an annual march on Washington, D.C., or I should say at Washington, D.C. At Washington, D.C. We're not literally marching on it to like take it over or anything like that. It is a march within Washington, D.C. To essentially protest the Roe v. Wade decision way back in 1973, I believe it was. That is a decision that led to the legalization of abortion nationwide here in the United States. And contrary to popular belief, it actually legalized abortion effectively for any reason up to birth, actually. Now, a lot of states, and we'll get to this a little bit more later, but a lot of states have had their own restrictions saying you can't perform abortion beyond a certain time, so on and so forth. But as far as the judiciary is concerned, and as far as the political left in the country is concerned, it is legal from the moment of conception to the moment of birth. So that's fun. And for 37 years now, so not literally from the beginning of the decision, but a few years later, the National Right to Life organization started the March for Life, which is now the March for Life is kind of its own organization now. I'm not sure exactly what the precise relationship is. It doesn't matter. Not for our purposes here. And in any case, so that's been going on for 37 years. It is the least reported, best attended civil rights march in the world. It has been going on, as I said, every year for the past 37 years. More often than not, it attracts 100,000 or more every single year in January. It's always done close to the anniversary of Roe v. Wade. Usually, the Roe v. Wade, I believe the decision was made on January 22nd, 1973. So about, within a few days of that, usually the Friday before is what it's been typically. So I went this past year. I actually went the year before, and I went for the first time way back right when Obama was elected. So it was, I can't remember, it was within a day or two of his inauguration, which that was a pretty well attended march. The one last year was also pretty well attended, but this year, holy freaking cow, it was massive. I haven't seen one this big. I've heard of one this big. I've heard of a couple this big. I don't know what they finally landed on as an official estimate. I've heard everything from 120,000, which seems really low. Like, I think that's an extreme low ball. I've seen like 300,000. I've heard upwards of 600,000. I don't know. I wasn't counting people, but to give you some perspective, I was near the front of the march this year and got all the way up. You start on the mall, about halfway between the Capitol building and the Washington Monument. Just give you some perspective if you've ever been there. And you swing out to Constitution Avenue, you march right on up, and then you hang a right, and you go right up to the steps of the Supreme Court. Well, I was at pretty close to the front of the march, and I went out. Once we got to the front, we listened to Father Frank Pavone kind of kick off the Silent No More testimonies, which, for those who don't know, Silent No More is an organization to help people who have had abortions and regret them, or people who have somehow been complicit in an abortion, to kind of give their testimony. And that's the purpose of that organization: spread awareness of the fact that, you know what, a lot of people wind up regretting this decision. It screws with your life. And Father Pavone, as the head of, or the founder of Priests for Life, helps kick that off pretty much every year. I think that's been going on for the last 17 years now. And so anyway, we listened to him get that kicked off, and then said, it's like, yeah, we're hungry. We know there's something to eat. So we turned around and we followed the march route in reverse. We got almost back to the beginning before we found the end. And it was packed. You were packed pretty tight the entire march. Lots of times, I'm kind of a tall guy. I was taking like half steps for a significant portion of the march. It was easily the best attended one that I've been to. And that first one, back right when Obama was inaugurated, I believe estimates for that one were around 400,000. So let that be your guide. Anyway, the purpose of the march is to, protest the Roe v. Wade decision, to speak out against abortion. But the tone of the march isn't really like this angry, we're against this sort of thing. It isn't even it's not even a preachy, this is evil and we're calling God's judgment upon us type of thing. You could make a strong argument that it could easily take on that tone and be perfectly justified in doing so. But it's not what it does. It's about celebrating life. It's about promoting love for the least of these, promoting love for the unborn child and for the women who carry them, for those in difficult situations. Because if anything, the whole pro-life movement is out there on the ground, in the trenches, at these crisis pregnancy centers, out there in the streets in front of abortion clinics, reaching out, trying to help these troubled women and often men. No, I'm not saying men are getting pregnant. No. This is not that kind of channel. What I am saying is often it's especially going into crisis pregnancy centers, it's couples who don't know what to do. They don't know what's going on. They're young. They're biting off more than they can. They feel like they're biting off more than they can chew, and they're looking for somebody to give them help. And these crisis pregnancy centers are there to do that. And so it's about reaching out. It's about celebrating life, and that's what the March for Life is really all about. That's pretty much the whole tone of it. Almost from start to finish. Yes, of course, we talk about how evil abortion is. Yes, we talk about how we do need to change it, how we are fighting massive cultural headwinds, especially right now. Because, holy cow, again, we'll get to that in just a little bit. But in any case, it's interesting. The energy at this one felt different. It did. The crowd felt more energized. It felt more like there were people really willing to do something. And the reason I point that distinction out is because, and maybe this is internal too. Maybe this is more me projecting. That's very possible. But before it felt like, this is the thing to do. We'll march. We support the cause. But at the end of the day, nobody's really expecting a whole lot to happen. And we're well justified in that feeling, because legislatively, very little progress has been made in the 40 plus years since Roe v. Wade. It's been atrocious, frankly, especially given the fact that there have been a few times when the supposedly pro-life Republican Party has had control of the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. When there has been a supposed conservative majority on the Supreme Court, even, we have gotten very little done. And that is that in and of itself is a tragedy. It's appalling, frankly. And it's one of the reasons why I'm extremely jaded when it comes to the Republican Party and even a lot of the prominent pro-life organizations. I'm like, seriously, if this is your main focus, you're not doing a good job. But this, like I said, this one felt different. Part of that is the fact that, again, even though results are still pretty lacking, really, is the at least vocal support for the pro-life cause coming from the current administration. Actually, we'll just go ahead and talk about that a little bit. The very first March for Life under President Trump, Vice President Pence showed up, which, you know, that's pretty cool. I wasn't at that one, but still pretty cool. Last year's, the president addressed the march live. He was basically Skyping in, but still addressed it live as he was having his own rally at the Rose Garden, which, hey, that's, at the very least, that's pretty cool. Now, this year, he did a taped message, but he was introduced by Vice President Pence, who showed up in person, much to many people's surprise. Turns out that Jeannie Mancini, the head of the March for Life organization, and maybe just a handful of others actually knew that that was happening. So, and that was a huge boost for the crowd, especially since he didn't just show up by himself. He showed up with his wife, Karen. Now, that in particular was very, very, I hate to use words like this because everyone uses them, but I'm going to go ahead and use it, powerful, given that she's just been getting a crap ton of criticism in the media because she has a temerity to work at a Christian college that actually requires its employees to uphold Christian ethics, basic teachings on Christian morality. Especially the one that has gotten her a lot of flack is the fact that they require you to uphold Christian sexual morality. So that means, Christian teaching on marriage. So no homosexual marriage, no premarital sex of any kind at all. Things that 20 years ago were pretty mainstream positions, but no longer. Heck, even 10 years ago wasn't all that crazy. Now trending is hashtag expose Christian schools. So that's fun. Anyway, back to the more positive. So Vice President Pence came on and gave a pretty good speech and everything, introducing President Trump, who in his taped message said that he was going to veto any anti-life or pro-abortion legislation that comes across his desk, which that's cool. We've never gotten a pledge like that before. So credit where it's due. Now, I want to see what that actually looks like on the ground, because a lot of legislation could be construed as pro-abortion. For instance, the fact that they recently started, I got this from Shannon Joy, they recently started allowing research on aborted fetal tissue again. That I think that was stopped, if I remember right, back under the Bush administration, and then amazingly, Obama never started doing it again. And that just recently went through. That went across President Trump's desk, and he signed it. That was before the pledge. So, think about that, I guess. There's also the fact that, does this mean funding for, like, Planned Parenthood? Are we going to be vetoing that? I don't know. I want to see results. Still, it's a good pledge, but I want to see what it looks like on the ground. Like I said, I'm a trifle jaded here. Excuse me. Pardon me. Anyway, where was I? I also that was actually kind of a double Vice President Pence at this particular march, because, as many of you probably know, Ben Shapiro actually did his podcast from the rally this year, which was awesome. I'm a pretty big Shapiro fan, and he did a good job. He went through a bunch of pro-abortion arguments and kind of knocked them down one at a time. And during that, Vice President Pence actually called into the show, so he kind of talked to the march a little bit, via phone, and then showed up in person a little bit later. Pretty cool stuff. Now, you might have heard about Shapiro making some comments that got, shall we say, taken out of context during his podcast. That was essentially, he was talking about the whole thing about abortion and how abortion has basically reduced crime in the country. That comes from the book Freakonomics, incidentally. And in fact, I remember getting in an argument with a pro-abortion atheist about this once, many years ago now, and he actually brought that up. It turns out the data doesn't line up, but he was also saying that it's like, so we're going to justify killing an unborn child because of bad things that they might do in the future. Yeah, that just doesn't make any sense. And he went on to further the argument. It's kind of like, would you kill baby Hitler? And he points out correctly that no pro-life person would kill baby Hitler because, and I quote, baby Hitler is not adult Hitler. What we would do is take baby Hitler and take him out of his house and put him in a better house so that he grows up to not become Hitler, which is exactly right. Of course, that's what we would do. You're like, well, this situation sucked and led to a whole lot of trouble. Instead, different environment, different nurture, and maybe he grows up to actually be a successful artist. Could have happened, right? But people were like, oh my gosh, he was defending Hitler. Really? Even the clip that was isolated from the main part of the main point of the argument, the clip actually wasn't just no pro-life person would kill baby Hitler. The clip was actually the whole thing about would kill baby Hitler because they just didn't include the part about what about the whole crime thing. It was like, even the clip that was taken out of context, it was like, what are you people making a big deal of? He's obviously not defending Hitler. You people are fools. So there's that. And incidentally, I was there. As far as I could tell, everyone around me got it. Everyone around me understood exactly what he was saying. No one was confused, except some idiots on Twitter. Yes, excuse me. Goodness. Anyway. And we actually got double Shapiro, too, because he wound up kicking off the actual main speakers and everything for the rally. So that was awesome. And he kind of talked a little bit about, whether or not are pro-life people out of step with mainstream society. And the answer is, yeah. Who cares? That doesn't make us wrong. As he put it, righteousness does not have to be popular. It just has to be righteous. That might be the best line from all the speeches that whole day, to be perfectly honest. But it was, they really pulled out the stops on guests. Obviously, Vice President Pence and his wife Karen, Ben Shapiro. Also had Abby Johnson, the former director of a Planned Parenthood, who has since converted, become pro-life, become Catholic, who now actually works on reaching out to people working in the abortion industry to show them what's really going on with it, and that they can leave, to help them leave. Because part of the reason people stay in it is because they don't know what else they're going to do. It's a job, and they got to put food on the table, right? And she helps them. When they want to step away, she helps them figure that out. And that's from the she does it through her "And Then There Were None" ministry, and already helped like 500 people to get out of that horrible industry. God, man. I should have got some water or something before coming down and doing this. Anywho, Carl Anderson, Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus, was there. Alveda King, Martin Luther King's niece, she was there. Incidentally, I wound up meeting her at the bar in the hotel, which happened to be the main hub for the March for Life later that night. Pretty cool. Really enjoyed that. Just didn't, nothing great. Just kind of said hi and everything. Got a picture with the kids. Pretty awesome, especially since we had heard her speak not far from us just a few months ago. So anyway, yeah, it was a very well attended march. There were some counter protesters up at the steps of the Supreme Court, but really a handful, a couple dozen, maybe, if that, which is fine. There's, as far as I know, there's never been any issues between the counter protesters and the marchers, and I hope it stays that way. I'll be honest, every time I go, I'm a little bit nervous that this is going to be the year that something horrible happens, but so far it hasn't, and Lord willing, that'll continue. But now going forward, there are some huge, as I said, headwinds. Most likely, if you're watching this, you already know about the legislation that just passed in New York that legalizes abortion right up to the minute of birth in that state. Basically describes abortion as a fundamental human right. Even removed any penalties for killing an unborn child, like if you assault a pregnant woman. If the baby dies, as far as the law is concerned, big deal. I don't know how they're gonna wind up describing that. It's just artificially induced miscarriage. I don't care. Would they even call it a miscarriage at that point? I don't know. And of course, this was celebrated in New York, and amongst the more left-leaning corners of the country. And it's particularly frustrating for me because I'm a Catholic, and Governor Cuomo claims to be one as well. I don't know if you know this, but the Catholic Church isn't real fond on abortion. Not a fan at all. It's kind of one of those mortal sin type of things. And it's particularly galling, one, because guess who most of the marchers at the March for Life are? Almost all of them are Catholic. Seriously, go there or look at some of the photos and everything. Go to marchforlife.org and look at pictures from the march in a year. And if you can zoom in, look at who the signs are. It's Catholic College this, Catholic High School that, Knights of Columbus, this, various different religious organizations everywhere. Which, as a Catholic, I love that. But man, you Protestants, come on, man! I know there's a lot of pro-life Protestants out there. Come on. We'd love to have you. In fact, the programming for the rally and everything, speakers are pretty diverse across the Judeo-Christian spectrum. I mean, Shapiro, obviously, he's Jewish. They always have their rally led off by a prayer with the Catholic bishops and the Orthodox Christian bishops and metropolitans. They have different designations anyway, but they've done that for years. And there have been plenty of others. There have been Lutherans. There have been all kinds of other people up on that stage, and in the crowd as well. I saw at least one Jewish sign, and there's a secular pro-life organization out there that, just as far as I can tell, is just called Secular Pro-Life. Walked right by their sign, which is cool. Again, love to have them. Last year, I even saw a Gays for Life sign. So I was like, awesome. Glad to have you here for the cause, man. And Anyway, back to New York. It's galling because most of the support for the pro-life cause, at least at the march, is Catholic. And this guy, this yutz, is claiming to be Catholic. And then actually invokes his Catholic faith when he wants to abolish the death penalty. Which is not which is not described as intrinsically evil by the church. Very close to it right now. Due to Pope Francis, which that's a whole other episode. It is frowned on by the church right now, but it is not on like a dogmatic level. It's more like a thou really shouldn't, as opposed to a thou shalt not. It's honestly, he ought to be excommunicated. He should have been a long time ago, to be perfectly honest. Cardinal Dolan says he's not going to use excommunication as a weapon. I'm like, it's like, no, this is like normal. It should be used. It should be used to say just simply, you're clearly not in the church. In fact, there is a very strong argument to be made that he's actually excommunicated himself through his actions, but those actions in support for something that is intrinsically evil. But then again, that gets me to a whole other thing about the general lack of action on the part of the Catholic bishops. Anyway, I think it's about time to wrap this one up. I'm not going to talk about the MAGA hat, the MAGA hat kit and everything, the Covington Catholic situation. I might address that in the next one that's possible. But for right now, I'm going to leave that alone. It's been run into the ground anyway. I don't know how much I can really add at the moment. And I'm going to be writing an article on that pretty soon, actually. So I'm sorry, my voice. I don't know what's going on. I'm just coughing like crazy. So it's, yeah, March for Life is pretty awesome. I plan on going again next year. And I hope that one day I don't have to. I hope that one day it's actually done and some form of sanity and morality returns to this country again. But until that day, I and hundreds of thousands of others will keep marching and working whatever small way we can in between marches. So, that being said, time to sign off. And I will see you next time. And until then, keep fighting the good fight.